My name is Brandon Hartung, and I'm a missionary who travels the world, sharing stories that inspire God's people to have an impact in His work across the globe. Today's episode is sponsored by Highland Park Church. Highland Park Church is one church in two locations, Fayetteville and West Fork, Arkansas. Our focus is to build better people through Christ, because we believe Jesus makes us better in everything we do. Check us out at highlandpark.church for more information. All right, we're joined here today with Miss Elisabeth Beemer. So thankful for you coming on the podcast and just sharing your interesting perspective of growing up on the mission field, and you're still doing missions work today, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And you actually work with one of my favorite missions organizations, CLUB1040. And I've been on a few different projects and locations with you guys, and love what you guys do and just your heart and how you guys do it. And so it's just been a natural, easy fit for me when I come work with you guys, and you love to laugh too, which is always fun.
Yeah, we've loved everything we've gotten to do with you. And also whenever you help on any trip, oh my gosh, the quality of the footage or the pictures, we're just like, best thing ever.
Thank you. Checks in the mail for saying. Well, let's jump in here and tell people kind of just a little bit about yourself and some of the places you lived growing up on the missions field. It's not just one place. You moved around a couple times, and let's just kind of do a general overview to get people up to date on where we're at.
Yeah, so my name is Elisabeth Beemer. I'm 26. I'll actually be 27 next month, so that's exciting. I'm officially in my late 20s. Crazy. But I was born and raised in Manchester, England, and my parents had moved there to start a church. They had my brother there and then also me. And then they started Go Church Manchester. And then that has since grown to 3 or 4 different churches. And I think when I was about 12, we moved to, it's about to get a little crazy. We moved to America for about 9 months so they could itinerate. That was my first time ever living in America, despite my accent. I swear I used to have an English accent. And then from there, we moved to Abuja, Nigeria, which was just an absolute flip on the head. And then from there, moved back to America for my last 3 years of high school. And then as soon as I hit 18, a month after graduation, I moved to Sydney, Australia to attend college. And then done with that, I now live in America. And then I help my parents with their missions organization, CLUB1040. I got to be the communications director, which basically means all the pretty things. And I really, really love that. And then I also own a few businesses myself. So yeah, brief overview.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you do an awesome job with all that stuff too. You've got an eye and a talent for it. So growing up, I'll kind of jump back to the beginning here. Did you feel like you were an Englander at heart, or did you know kind of I'm an American in England? I mean, as a kid, I guess you only know what you know, right?
Yeah, I actually remember asking my parents, I'm like, wait, am I 50-50? Am I what am I?
You're mixed.
Yeah, exactly. And they were like, well, you're 100% American, but you're also 100% English. And so I
Thanks
do
for the
feel
easy answer, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. They really popped out on that one.
Yeah.
No, but I love England. It's definitely home. Now that I don't have my accent, people never believe that I'm from there, but I know my family and friends there, and just, the people I grew up with, it makes it really special. So yeah, I'm English, I swear.
Nice. And then when you were growing up, in England, were you basically a pastor's kid, or did you feel like a missionary's kid?
So in my mind, my brain, my parents never did, they were mission minded, but they never really did missions things. Obviously that was their whole life, is they were Americans living in England. So they were missionaries to England, but because they started a church, my only perspective was that I was a pastor's kid. So yeah, I never really thought about it. They would do different missions trips with the church, or have a bunch of people come over all the time. But I mean, I never really thought missions was on the horizon, or moving anywhere. When they told me, I was like, what? I was so shocked, especially when they said Africa. I was like, this white hair, green eyed little, blonde baby. I was like, what do you mean? It was a shock.
So you were, before you went back to the States for that short period of time, they told you like, hey, we're gonna go to Nigeria whenever we're
Yeah.
done in the States.
Yeah, my mom actually told me early they were gonna like take us on a little trip and like tell us very softly and I think my mom was like praying one day. We were sat on the couch together and she was like, "Hey, do you want to know a secret?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I want to know a secret." And she told me, and if you know my mom, that really tracks for her. Just
Yeah.
like, but she was like, "Yeah, we're gonna be moving to Africa," and that's all she said. And so I had no like concept of what was going to happen. She's like, "Yeah, we're in Africa." Little, and I didn't even know we are going to do the like transitional period in the States or anything like that. So it was pretty shocking.
Was there an excitement for you, or as a kid, were you like, you're leaving everything you know at that point, right? Because you just were from England.
Yeah. So at that point, I definitely wanted to be a famous singer. So I was like, I will never be famous. This is
You still could. You're a very good singer.
Thank you. So I was not excited. No, I didn't really. I'm very sentimental. I'm like very soft and very loyal. So my friends were just everything to me. England was everything to me, and I did not want to change. I did not want to move. No, nothing. My brother, on the other hand, was completely opposite. He was so excited. We had a lot of Nigerians in the church in England. And so some of his friends were Nigerian. And so he had been more around the culture than I had. And so he was just like ecstatic. But I was the opposite side of things.
So your 9 months in America, was that more of a culture shock to you than going to Nigeria, or was it going to Nigeria? What were some of the things you noticed differently visiting America as well? You're 100% Englander side,
Yeah.
and then transitioning to Nigeria, Africa, which is of course a different world.
Yeah. So growing up, my dad he would take turns taking us kids on trips. And they had to continue with like their citizenship and their residency. So there's things that you have to meet to be able to like continue with that. And especially because all of my parents' family is in the States. So we would probably try to go to America every 2 years or so. And they would take turns at which kid they would bring. So I loved America. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. That was the time High School Musical was coming out. I was like,
You
oh,
want to be
this
a
is gonna be
singer?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was really excited for that. And we have family here, so it was really nice because we had never lived around family ever. We had no like blood family in the UK. So it was really, really cool to actually be here. And I got to go to a Christian school and I made a lot of good friends. But the transition to there was difficult. But once I was there, it was pretty great. And then they did some itinerating. So my dad was gone a lot. So that was a little bit more difficult. Like I said, I'm more like sentimental, soft. So that was a little bit difficult. But then we moved to Nigeria, and that it definitely was a humongous culture shock. So I think that was like 7th and 8th grade, or yeah, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, maybe. And so those are, middle school kind of fundamental years. And so we had to kind of find schools and the community there. And my parents kind of started from nothing. So yeah, it was a pretty big culture shock. And like I said, I'm very white. So
Yeah, just a
yeah.
little bit. Is Nigeria a TP flushing country or no?
Oh, wait. Yes. Sorry, I've
Oh
been
yeah,
so lucky since then where it has not been. It does flush toilet paper. Praise the Lord.
yeah.
Yeah.
You start traveling internationally, you don't realize how many countries you have to not flush toilet paper in,
I
and
didn't even
it
know it
doesn't
was
seem like that big of a deal until you get into those
can't do it.
situations. You're like,
No, seriously.
okay,
That's funny.
well that's good. At least you can flush toilet paper there. Did you feel like I guess I'm just trying to think of a perspective of a kid. Did you feel like, okay, we're on a mission, or did you feel like mom and dad are on a mission and I'm stuck with them until I'm 18 kind of feeling?
I so my parents did this was their first time doing this too. So they were doing the best that they could with what they knew. It was their first time doing all these things too. And I think back and I'm like, oh, actually they did, a really good job with that. But it definitely I didn't, at that time I still was like, I don't ever want to travel. as soon as I get to be an adult, I will stay in one place, never go anywhere for the rest of my life. Like I would tell people that. So it definitely felt more like it was like their calling and we're just along because we're the kids. But they were very intentional about like making sure that because like Nigeria at the time, there was a lot of security issues. So they would make sure that we would be able to, if we want to go to hang out with our friends, like they would make it happen for us. And then they would also like, they put us in the best school that we could. And it was an American international school. So there was people from like every single culture there. So that was really cool to see kids my age, even though they're all coming for different purposes. But I think that more it pushed the kind of narrative of like, oh, our parents are here doing this thing and we're just kind of like along for the ride. But my parents did definitely get me active and involved in everything that they're doing, like video editing or photography or just, anything creative like that.
You're talking about expats and stuff. You ended up kind of going to school with some interesting other kids, right?
Yeah, there was, all the embassy kids, they would all go to that school. So there was an American international school and then a British school. And we ended up choosing the American one. And even the like president of the country, I think his name was Jonathan Goodluck, his kids went to that school. And seriously, there were people from all over doing so many random things. There was like people doing oil things, and it was such a big melting pot of kids. It was pretty crazy. But the people that I got to know, I swear there were some mafia people. Okay. That's all I'm going to say.
No names. Don't mention names. Just, yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome though. It was really cool. And then it's cool to see where those people have gone now. It's really, really interesting.
That's cool. One thing that maybe, I don't know if it came from this, so maybe I should ask your mom, but you probably know the answer. You actually work with your mom on a series of kids missions books.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool of them to think about that, about getting people, not just people, but kids especially, interested in missions work and from a young age and feeling like they are a part of the missions work versus just being kind of drug along. And I don't know, is it a secret that you're one of the main characters in the book, or
Kinda. No, I don't.
We can edit this out if it is.
It's called Around the World with Matt and Lizzie, but the only reason why it's a secret is because Lizzie's kind of like the more ditzy girly, and I'm Elizabeth. I don't go by Lizzie, so now people will be like, "You're Lizzie," and I'm like, "Please don't call me that." But yeah, no, she started a mission series because when she was little, her mom was like divorced, like they lived in a trailer park. It was just so random, but her mom got into church and she would always call my mom her little missionary to Africa. And that was just like in her head from when she was super little. And I think the way that she felt about that, she wants to, and even if, these kids don't go on to do mission stuff, like being able to show them that they're not too young to do the things that they want to do or to reach the people that they want to reach. And I think that my parents have definitely always instilled that in us for sure. And I think that's also a part of the reason why it didn't feel like we were like a missionary family. It was like they were doing missions and we were just kind of along for the journey. But I think that was actually really, really great because it was a way that they would never pressure us to feel like we had to do what they were doing, like people would always be like, so you're going to go to like this Bible school or you're going to be a pastor. And my parents would always be like, you can do whatever you feel like you are personally called to do. And I think me and my brother have really, really appreciated that. And it's obviously played out to this day. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things I was going to ask you about is just that if you did feel that pressure of like, you grow up and you see your parents doing something and everyone kind of you see it a lot with pastoring, especially like they have a kid, like you're going to grow up and be a pastor and take over this church or, whatever the case may be. But if that was, you kind of sort of answered it already, but if that's a pressure you see a lot of missionary kids get, kind of like pastor kids or.
Yeah. I think that is with most people in most fields whenever they're doing something great, like they kind of impose that upon their kids. But my parents, everyone else did, but my parents never, ever put the pressures on us to do anything like that. or anything. They just always wanted us to do what the Lord asked us to do. And it's really amazing that they've given us that freedom. And we definitely have done that. And it's worked out in their favor because I came 360 around and I ended up going to Bible school that I never thought I would ever go to. They actually start those Bible schools in different places. And everyone always would say I would do that. So I kind of pushed it as far as I could. And then when I got to the place to kind of accept it for myself, nobody else was telling me to do it. I think that was like the least expected thing. Like it went all the way around, everyone expecting me to do it. And then everyone was like, she will never do that. And then I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I ended up doing that. And then I also work for them for their, missions nonprofit, which again, never thought I would be doing that. So it worked out in their favor.
What do you think that kind of moment was where you go? Because I mean, obviously, I'll speak from my perspective. Is there's a pride issue of like, well, if you say I'm going to do it, I'm going to not do it just to spite you, because I'm a hard-headed guy. I come by it honest from my grandpa is what I'm told. But it's kind of that prideful moment. But what was that kind of moment for you that things turned and you said you ended up back going, okay, I am gonna help do missions? And I mean, you're kind of like me, and you have a unique ability to assist in a unique way versus a typical missionary. But like, what was that, I guess, moment that stood out to you that made you go, okay, I am gonna do this?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I was growing up, I did not want change. I did not want travel. I said the moment that I turn 18 and I can like be on my own, I will be staying in one place. And it definitely was a lot of pride for sure. I'm like, I'm an independent woman. I'm going to do what I want to do. But also I think eventually I saw the benefits of travel and culture, and like I got to see how amazing it was, and then I started enjoying it for myself. And now, when I moved back to America for my last 3 years of high school, I was like antsy to get on a plane. I was like, where can I go next? We're gonna go next. And now, I travel as much as I can. And so I've just like learned to love it, and I'm so thankful. I didn't really understand at the time that how like amazing it was to be able to grow up the way that I did. And now I look back and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I did not grow up in America. I'm so glad that I've seen different cultures and been outside of the US. And it's definitely like a very fortunate way to have grown up. So that definitely was something that changed. And literally when I was 18, the month I turned 18, I moved to Australia by myself. So I had to go through a little bit of a journey and like discover my own personal relationship with the Lord. But I don't know. I think it's just come over time, and like a softening, and then also seeing things from my parents' perspective has been really, really interesting, and like I'm around them all the time. So if it's what's the saying, it's like, it's not taught, it's caught. There has to be some sort of overflow coming from them if they're legit. So it definitely has overflown. And yeah, I'm really, really fortunate to get to work for them and be alongside them. And I genuinely enjoy it and have a heart for the things that, they've done my whole entire life now, because I've seen the impact of it. And yeah, it's been really amazing.
That's awesome. What I know you've have some interesting stories from your time in Nigeria, especially because of the security issues and stuff people don't even think about, like with visas. And I mean, if you never left the States, you never have to deal with any of this, but you kind of grow up constantly dealing with it if you're on the missions field.
Yes.
What are some of your more memorable like experiences in Nigeria, as far as I know you were close to, what was it, the UN bombing that they had there?
Yeah, that was a really big one. Like I said, we went to the American International School there, and my mom, so the tuition was like insane. It was something like 40,000 per kid per year. So I mean, just the like faith steps my parents had to take alone. I mean, seeing that when you're little, that will get you into ministry. But my mom actually ended up working for the school, and so she got a discount on our tuition. So she was at the school, me and my brother were at the school, and it probably was about 2 miles away from us, and the UN was bombed. And so that's a really the United Nations building. That's a really big deal, especially since there's so many of those kids in our school with people that worked there or like they had family there. And actually there were quite a few of the graduates of the Bible college that my parents had just started that were attending there. And like a ton of people lost their lives, which is really tragic. But they had just taught about the Holy Spirit, I think like a few weeks prior. And so many of them had learned so much from that exact day, they're like, I think I need to like not go in this morning, or like just different stories that kept them out of the building. And so I thought that was really, really cool. But yeah, we were sitting in the middle of class and I was in math class. I remember all of a sudden the projector starts like shaking and you can just like feel the whole building. It felt like an earthquake pretty much. So we were just like, oh, it was probably an earthquake, but it was the United Nations building exploding. And from there, everything shut down. The cell phone tower shut down. And so my mom was trying to like navigate all of these kids and get them into the cars with their drivers. And it was a pretty crazy hectic day.
And then you guys had to actually leave the country pretty quick one time. What happened with that?
Yeah, I remember that happening a few times. But Nigeria still is, or when I lived there, was a place where there's still a ton of corruption and a lot of security issues. Like, for example, the UN bombing, or people, they kind of like pull you over sometimes just to get money, security would. You could pretty much bribe anyone out that we did, but I would see it happen all the time. So it was a pretty corrupt country. And so just security issues were really, really sensitive. And I remember one night, and we had like a set amount of power at our house, like electricity power. So AC, lights, all that stuff. And one of the nights I think we were like doing homework by literal candlelight in this little tiny apartment. And my dad just started like pulling out these bags of stuff. And I'm like, what is he doing? And I don't know all the details to this day, but we had to leave the country within like 24 hours because just a bunch of security sensitive things that I don't even think that they felt comfortable sharing with us because they don't want to scare us at that time. And so we had to like get up and get out of there. But he's like pulling out bags and grabbing all his supplies. And he actually ended up staying, and me and my mom and brother left. And that wasn't for a super long time. But yeah, things like that. We were just always ready to like be on the go whenever we needed it, if we needed to.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
And then did you leave Nigeria when you went to school in Australia? Or did you go straight to Australia from there?
So I went from Nigeria. I did some school there, and then moved back. So my 9th grade year, it was pretty complicated. My 9th grade year, traveled around a ton. We were in Egypt for a few months, like a bunch of random places. But one of the main things that my parents are doing or CLUB1040 is doing, is that they want to see Bible schools in a ton of Middle East, North Africa places. So it's always been, Nigeria was a good place to reach the different places in the Middle East and North Africa, but we were always going to the different places. So I left Nigeria and I went, that 9th grade year I was traveling. And then the last 3 years I did high school in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Graduated with 1,400 people. Pretty crazy.
Gosh.
Yeah. I know.
And okay, so what made you head to Australia then, of all the places? That's the opposite side of the world.
Yeah, so as soon as I graduated high school, I knew that I didn't want to be in Oklahoma. I kind of had seen it as a really just small town. I had come from traveling all over the world to be, in a place where people think it's all farm. And I was like, I just want to go somewhere. I want to do something. I'm like, I don't really want to go to college, but I'll go to college if I need to, and it will like take me somewhere else. And like I said, during that time, I was just like antsy to be on a flight, any flight, just take me somewhere. I want to see something new. And so I actually ended up going to Hillsong College in Sydney, Australia, and I studied music and leadership for 3 years. I loved it.
Very cool. And then you end up going to Samoa by yourself. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I mean, I was in Australia, and that's on the other side of the world from everything. And so I was like, when I'm over here, I want to see the things that are over
Yeah, I've
here,
taken that flight before. It's not a
Yeah.
short one.
Yeah, it's really long. I think my longest flight was like 18 hours to get over there. To be in a plane for 18 hours is crazy. Like I think
You get
back
to
to
know
that, I'm
your
like,
seat partners really
yeah,
well.
for real.
We're gonna be sleeping on
Um,
each other's shoulders.
yeah, so one of the places, so in England, actually, we had a lot of Samoan friends. England is like a melting pot of people, which is really, really cool. But we had some Samoan friends, and there was like a break coming up, and I was like, where could I go? What could I do? A lot of my friends were leaving town or like, doing whatever. And so my mom was like, why don't you go to Samoa? Like, just check the prices. I'm like, okay. So I ended up going to Samoa by myself for probably about a week, and it was amazing. I got there on a Sunday. I didn't know anyone. This one guy, it was like their cousin's cousin or something, came and picked me up from the airport, and I didn't know that Sundays in Samoa were like observance days. So everything was closed. There was nobody there. And I was staying in a fale, which is like an outdoor kind of hut, no electricity, no AC. It was like this little mattress, not even mattress, like I can't even, like a towel basically on the
Just
floor, a
putting all
single
your
towel.
emissions training to work.
And then like a mosquito net over me. And I was like freaking out. I'm like, what did I do? I'm texting my mom. I'm like, where can I find Wi-Fi? And I'm texting my mom like, Mom, I don't know if this is a good idea. Like everything's closed. There's nobody around. I'm on the floor, like bugs everywhere.
Now
It
I
was
see why
getting,
the tickets were so cheap.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah. But the next day, actually, it was, this is probably pretty sketchy. You probably shouldn't do this, but the person, like, who was staying, there's two people in a fale, and there was this girl, and she was like some, like scientist, like bird watching scientist, and so she came. I don't even know what the word for that is. It's probably a specific word.
I'm not
Bird
smart
watching
enough to know
scientist.
what that word
Yeah, for
is.
real. Um,
There's something ologist, something probably ends in
something
ologist.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
But she was from Sweden, and so I got to know her a little bit, and she's basically like, just come, like, join me. I'm gonna go over here today. And then we met this other person, and we just like made friends with all these people. Like, there was this guy from France, and she was from Sweden. And then we went, and like it was finally open on the Monday, and we went and toured a bunch of places and walked everywhere. I ended up taking this bus that apparently the the people at the place where I was staying, they're like, yeah, you can get on this bus and go to this place. And my mom ended up telling our friends back in England, the Samoan friends, that I had taken the local bus. And they were like, uh-oh, like she should not. They're like, we're locals and we would not even do that. And I'm like, how did I end up doing that? But it was great. There was like a big Jesus sign on the front. I was like staring at, my homie the whole
What could
time.
go? Yeah, what could go wrong? The
Yeah.
Jesus is right there.
But yeah, so I ended up like kind of island hopping with this girl, and it was pretty much the best thing ever. There's one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, according to something. It's called Lalumanu Beach, and the culture there, the places there, it really is so so beautiful. I'd recommend anyone to go.
That's cool. Yeah, I had Christy Wicks on that episode, and she talked about her time in Samoa,
Yeah,
and she just loved it and the people and the culture and everything. So
it
I'm gonna
is
have to
amazing.
put it on my list for sure.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know about
definitely love it.
I don't know about the sleeping on the floor of a hut though.
If
Maybe a
I can
little
get
bit
used to
more.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, is that where you ate the rat?
I believe
I
so.
think it.
Yeah, one of so me and that girl, we decided she was already like had a place booked to go stay at this other little island, like 20 minutes from where we were. She's like, just come with me. I'm like, okay. So I went with her. Also, stranger danger, probably don't do that.
Yeah,
Um,
if you're watching this at home, do
yeah,
not
I'm not
repeat what.
recommending.
Yeah, this is
So
human
but I
trafficking 101. This is how it starts.
yeah. But I went with her. And we stayed at this little island. It was locally owned. And the man who owned the island would stay on there, and then just tourists would kind of come. And there weren't too many tourists there, but they had different follies for people. And so me and this girl were sharing a folly, and we were in our individual little mosquito netted things. And at night, I all of a sudden hear this like, and the girl was like, "Oh, it's probably just a bird. Probably just a bird."
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, literally. And I was like, "Oh, okay." I believed her. The next morning, she was like, "Hey, by the way, that was a giant rat." She didn't want to tell me because she didn't want to scare me, but she was like, "That was a giant rat." And I was like, "Oh." So, and giant rats in other places, those are big. Those
Like
are
a
big
cat.
things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's crawling above us while we're sleeping. So we
Was
went
he
to
like
breakfast.
training for turtles how to
Yeah, literally.
kung fu fighter?
Probably. Who knows? The Samoa version. We went to breakfast that morning, and breakfast really was literally a picnic table, and they would just like, "Come bring you a plate." And we're eating, and I said that, so I'm actually a vegetarian. That's a fun story that we can probably dig into later.
Yeah, that
But
helps to you've always been a vegetarian or since this
no,
story
so
happened?
if I wasn't before this, I would have been
Yeah,
after.
this what made you a vegetarian, this story?
No, actually, in England is Manchester is actually where vegetarianism was birthed. If there's even a place to
Oh, I
birth
hate it
it.
already. No, just kidding.
Well,
You're a vegetarian. I'm not anti-vegetarian. I like people who are vegetarians, but yeah, I'm the opposite of whatever that is. I'm a
as
no
a kid,
veggie guy.
I'm having all the peanuts, all the whatever you can think. So I'm hard skinned about it.
Yeah.
But I grew up just like it being like a forefront of my brain, so I always kind of knew what a vegetarian was. And then after a while of traveling and literally eating every single thing that you can think of, because when you're a missionary, and especially a missionary kid, you have to eat everything that is set before you.
Don't
My
be
parents were,
offensive. Yeah.
yeah, my parents were very, very big on that. And they would bring out plates and plates and plates. So if you didn't like it the first time, you're getting a couple more plates of it.
Yeah, you'll learn to like it. Yeah, have some more.
Exactly. And so there was a time where I was like, you know what? I could just be a vegetarian. That would avoid so much. I wouldn't have to eat eyeballs and like guts and stuff. So I started off as a New Year's resolution. Someone kind of dared me to do it. And I am just really, really good at bits, apparently, because it's now like, however, like 11, 12 years later, and I'm still a vegetarian. Fun fact.
I always go with I'm allergic. Oh, I'm allergic. My stomach. Yeah, I can't handle. Sorry. Yeah.
That's funny. I should have done that easier.
That's so terrible. Yeah, you can still be eating rats today.
No, seriously. But like along the way, I was like, you know what, I need more protein. So I started eating fish, especially because I lived in Australia, which is so close to the coast. So, I mean, the freshest, most amazing fish ever. But I had told the island owner, I was like, I don't eat meat, but I do eat fish. And so they brought me like a special plate of stuff. And turns out we were going through like talking, and maybe there was some sort of misinterpretation because he was like, yeah, last night alone, he was like, we catch hundreds of rats a night. And he said, last night alone, we caught 58 rats. And then I was like, just still eating my food. I'm like, wow, this is really fresh. Honestly, really good. Gonna just put that out there. I was
Did
like,
they at
this
least
is the most fresh.
sends the hair off before they give it to you?
My friend though, the girl I was with, she had seen them later on killing one of the rats and then cooking it. So I ate rat, I guess. Really big one too.
Well, man.
Yeah.
Those poor Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. There goes their future
leader.
careers.
Yeah. It's worth it. If you're hungry, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the one thing about growing up on the mission field. It kind of prepares you for that, like just the readiness to be in any situation and just like, okay, well, here we go.
Yeah.
You have, I don't think I have a rat story. Maybe I've ran across some I didn't
Probably
really,
don't even know.
yeah, exactly. But I definitely have woken up and there's bats flying in, and you know, people like think you have a mosquito net or whatever for your bed, and like, no, it's for the bats. And then you're actually going to want to tuck it in under the thing. That's what another thing people don't. You got to tuck that under under the mattress so the creepy crawlies don't crawl into bed with you.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. One night I woke up and there was a cat just in my bed.
It's like, all right,
Yeah, okay.
at least
That's
he's
friends, I guess.
alive and not on the breakfast table.
Seriously. I'm like a
What
rat.
yeah, exactly. What are some other like things you come across as far as like I know sometimes water can be scarce in some countries and how they just like live life and things that would I guess be eye opening to most Americans if you told them like this is how we survived.
Yeah. In Nigeria specifically, we had at that time we had very limited like resources. And it mainly was because the country had obviously limited resources, but we also weren't. My parents really did not have any money at the time. But so there's no Wi-Fi. We had like a gig stick that had about 15 gigs of Wi-Fi that they would spend seriously so much money on just to be able to do like my dad's work, like the reason why he's there. So we
Yeah, no
really had no
Netflix on
Wi-Fi.
that.
Oh my gosh, like that. But seriously, Nigeria has come so far. So this was definitely, I think it was back in like 2010 or something. But then we also had really limited power, and with power, electricity, that's AC. So anytime we had electricity, turn on all the ACs. Everybody was like an announcement. Turn on all the ACs, and you would never know when it was gonna like die. So you had to like charge everything. You had to do everything that you like, blow dry your hair, like everything that you needed to do while you had electricity. You better be doing it. There was no like, wait, I'll just wait for later. I'll take a nap now and then whatever. No, it was like you need to do it now. And then one of the really big ones is that the water that we had in Nigeria, there was a big, just like plastic water tank. And I don't even know how many gallons, but it probably was like a 4 foot by 4 foot, if I remember correctly. But I also, kids.
Like the
So
one you see on like the rooftops and stuff.
yeah, exactly. It was like a big square one. And so that was like the water that we had for a couple weeks. The whole apartment building had for a couple weeks. And if you run out of water, like you run out of water. That's just what happens. And so whenever we had it, we like obviously the drinking water is not safe. So we had to go buy a ton of drinking water all the time. But we would store those big like 2-liter bottles and we would fill them up with water just in case, because we couldn't manage what the other people in the apartment complex, how much water they were like, nobody knew when it was going to run out, basically, like the electricity. So sometimes we would have to take showers with those water bottles that were stored up. My mom likes to joke. She's like, yeah, I'm a 4-bottle girl. Shower just 4 bottles. Yeah, so there's a lot of things like that.
And then culturally, I guess, especially doing missions work, but you end up going to a lot of like church services and meetings and things like that. What was the church service like in Nigeria compared to the States or England?
Yeah, so in Nigeria, it was hot. And so we would go in the mornings, everybody would be dressed up in like the highest heels imaginable, like very much to the nines. They really, really like were respectful and took it very seriously, but it also was kind of a little bit of a fashion show. And we would go and there would be no AC, dirt floors, big tents, and you're told that it would be, an hour and a half, 2-hour service, but I'm not kidding. Sometimes those church services would go on for hours and hours and hours. And we wouldn't leave because number one, our car's in the back of the parking lot and everyone would see us leave, but also like it just was disrespectful. So, and there's no Wi-Fi, there's no AC. Like if you run out of water, you're done for. I took up sewing as like a little like 14-year-old girl. I'm like, I bet I can sew a whole dress doing these. That was my like
That's so
hobby
smart.
during that time. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty intense, but they had some good music, good songs. Everybody would start dancing. A couple of times I got offered, like a guy came up to me and he was like, hey, I have 5 sons. I will line them up for you and you can pick which one. I'm like a little
Wow.
girl, like,
I need a few
Yeah.
years before that.
A lot of marriage proposals, let's just say that.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is intense. One thing I always notice too, and I don't know how they do it. It's like magic, I guess. But you go there, and like I said, you'll be on those dirt floors, and they're all dressed up, and like the white clothes that they wear are so super white. Like I
Yeah.
can't get my clothes that white here
Literally,
on
I'll have makeup
concrete floor.
all around here and they're spotless. Like,
Yeah, I don't know how it's. I'm always astonished whenever I go somewhere like that, and they are able to take care of their clothes, especially the whites. I guess just that it pops so much more if you're standing on a dirt floor. But this,
it's
I'm
true.
always amazed by that. Yeah, and then it's cool too, like culturally seeing, especially in Africa, a lot of like people that just grow up singing together. It's kind of like the village thing that you do, village life, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cuba was really cool, like the music in Cuba. It's very
The
culturally
music.
like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, the seriously, the music there, like, the beats and the way that everyone just, like, I swear, everyone was a good singer. Don't know how, and everybody could dance. I'm over there, like, the people would just, like, start breaking down during service, and that's why it took so long because everything was a little dance party.
They just start praying for you and you start dancing like,
Yeah,
oh, she needs,
exactly, like, perfect beat.
yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't know how they all were, like, so good at being on beat, but everyone could dance, everyone could sing, I swear.
Just how you grow up, you have to be. It's just non-negotiable.
Yeah.
You have to learn. If you don't, that's what you practice. That's what you do. But it's free to sing though. You think about that too. Countries where like soccer or football or whatever you want to call it is more popular because you need one ball or one rolled up piece of trash that's taped together. I mean, you see everything when you travel, but and then the whole village can play pretty much with that one little thing. So it's singing is free
True.
and that's community and you can do it and don't need TVs or anything, expensive to a basketball goal even. And,
I love that. It's also it's universal. I mean, I'll be in the middle of back dirt roads in the most random country ever, and they'll be playing a song from what's popular now in America, which is just crazy, crazy.
yeah. So you were had to hide in the back of some cars or underneath some seats or something at some point. Tell me
Yeah,
tell me what the story was behind that.
there was a lot of times where just because, like I said, we were in many like corrupt countries all the time. But me and my brother, seriously, we were little pale white. At the time I had like bleach white hair. And from being very little, we would just be doing things in countries where a lot of times, Christianity is not allowed, or if they see white tourists, they'll upcharge, or, everything becomes a way to make money because for some reason people just think white people are educated and rich, and obviously that's not always the case. Um, but a lot of times we'd be going through like security checkpoints or just like crowded spaces or like through villages sometimes. And because me and my brother would just stand out so much that we would draw so much attention, we would literally have to like crawl under the seats in the back of any kind of car that we're in and get under the very back and just like hide for like dear life. And we had no idea really what was going on. They're just like hide. But it was just a way to like avoid adding any extra attention, or especially like security things. Like we would get stopped if they saw us for sure. Yeah.
No, goodness. Yeah, I travel with a lot of camera gear, obviously, sometimes more than others, but yeah, you go through the security checkpoints and definitely been told, put those down and don't take any pictures. And they put that in the floorboard or, make sure
Yeah.
sitting. And then I've had other ones where we felt more relaxed and, you go through it and you make up a language and they don't even know, the people don't really speak English that are taking your passport, so they're like,
Well,
oh, okay. And they just kind of wave you through. So you say, "Scoobity bop, scoobity boop," yeah.
yeah.
just
I feel like
be confusing and
honestly,
funny.
I feel like honestly, as even just like a young female though, that kind of stuff doesn't really stop. Like you definitely have to be extra sensitive and extra cautious. I mean, the last time I was hidden in the backseat of a car was probably like
Such a
20.
great statement, by the way.
Yeah, that's it. That's your click right there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, probably back when the Beirut riots broke out. Because so my parents, they ended up moving to Beirut, Lebanon. Amazing place, amazing people. But the week that they started the church there, uh tons and tons of riots happened. I think it was like August 4th, like maybe 2021 or something. Um, and we didn't know it was happening. So there's this really amazing guy. His name is Rafi. He's one of the taxi drivers there. Now he's, Rafi.
Yeah.
Now he proclaims himself as the very first Go Church Beirut member. Amazing, amazing guy. Now he went from taxi driver all the way to being on staff in Beirut. But he was like, "Hey, I have a really cool place I want to show you guys." So me and my mom were in the back, and then he's driving us. And no one knew what was happening, but we started like driving through the back roads, and all of a sudden there's like fire and tires and like people. And my mom, she actually probably, like, she's from Arizona. She has dark brown hair. She gets tan really easy. I don't know how like that didn't pass through to the genetics to me, but it didn't. Thanks, Mom. But she probably could pass for like Middle Eastern, and I definitely cannot. So even during that, Rafi was like, "You need to get down, Elizabeth," because we had no idea what was going on. And it was riot. Actually, turns out they were rioting about WhatsApp being taxed, and then also tobacco being taxed. But that started like a huge revolution in the country, and it was pretty devastating for a lot of people.
Wow. So
Yeah.
when they say you have to be flexible to do missions, is it more about the time or the ability to get your body
Yeah. That's
flexed
funny.
into
Having
under the
stretched on the
seats? And
daily.
yeah.
It's funny.
What are some cool things now that you're an adult and you're kind of getting back into this? I know you've got to help and go to Lebanon and Turkey or some other places that
Yeah.
you got to go back as an adult. And what are some things you've got to do coming back to missions as an adult?
Yeah, so when I was younger, my dad had this like young guy. His name was Ryan Adams. I don't know if you know him, but he now is actually, I think he's in Europe now, but he was in Brazil for a while or something like that. Anyways, he was a part of U Revolution, and he traveled with us and was just like filming everything. And because of that, I was like, that is really, really cool. And from there, I was able to pick up the camera and like media stuff. And so I started video editing, photography, all the good stuff that comes along with any kind of digital media. And so now one of the really cool and fun things that I like to do, which is kind of similar to some of the stuff that you do, is I get to attend these amazing places and events specifically for media a lot of the times. So I've gotten to go to some really, really cool places. Yeah, I got to go to Turkey maybe 2 years ago in August. Of course, getting to go to Beirut, Lebanon to help with, their online program when COVID happened. They reached so many people through their online services. It was really, really cool to watch it. And I wasn't super a part of that, but getting to like work with them after was just really cool. And then anywhere they'll let me go, I'm like, take me with you.
You're ready.
I'm going to Kansas in a few days. Like, I'll go anywhere that you want to take me. So, yeah, but I've gotten to go to some really cool places, and it's neat to be able to offer like a skill to be able to help document in that way as well. So,
Yeah, and just growing up the way you did, it kind of prepared you for this. Just naturally you can travel a lot easier, and it becomes natural to you, I guess.
yeah,
And you grew
like,
up doing the visas and the passports and the being
yeah,
in odd
definitely.
situations and not knowing if you can flush toilet paper and various
I
things.
always like to say that some people, I'm blonde, so I give off a stereotype of being like a little, girly girl, high maintenance, but I feel like I am high maintenance one day a week so that I can be low maintenance for the rest of the week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, get
I
it out of your
will,
system.
yeah, I'll sleep on like any surface that you want to give me. Like, I have found a way to like contort my neck so that I can sleep on a plane like in the perfect position. I eat majority must food. Sometimes I did have to like sneak the meat onto my dad's plate. He was a trooper for that one. But yeah, I've definitely been able to be learn how to be super flexible in the most crazy situations. It's been really, really cool.
You're talking about sneaking meat. That reminds me of a story. I'm not going to drop his name because he may not know I did it yet, but we
Oh,
were in the bush in Africa somewhere. Yeah, I'm going to say the country because that might clue him in. But they were making all this food, and they had they call it different things with different African countries, but it's like a white paste basically. It's called if I say the name of it, it'll tell which country it's from. But it's a very cheap, almost like mashed potatoes, but with no flavor or nutritional value. Um, so they made that, and then they had, I guess, killed some chickens or something. It was some sort of like chicken meat, but they make it, and then it's like setting out, and all the like flies and stuff are landing on it, and you're just like, oh. And so everybody's like, oh, you're being very nice. It's, doing what you do as a missionary, just being grateful, and we are honored, obviously, that they would do that because it's
yeah.
expensive for them. But at the same time, in the back of your head, you're going, hey, like I don't want to be sick out here this far out. So it's like,
Where's the closest toilet?
yeah, exactly. The toilet is a hole in the ground. Yeah, there's nothing except the flies holding you up above the hole. So yeah, so we were sitting there eating, and we had kind of a group, and I one of my friends that I was traveling with, he was talking and looking the other direction, and I see he had already finished his little chicken thing. But I slid mine over his plate, and
That's
then I went,
so wrong.
I went, I went and I went ahead and put my plate back in. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, that's so good. Oh, yes. Oh, full. Oh, thank you. And yeah, I left him with the
So
extra,
funny.
the extra fly chicken. Yeah.
I'm not sitting next to you if you had any deer.
I know I'm giving away all my secrets. You gotta move like a ninja, you gotta be quick
Yeah.
and
No, a really good skill is just, and they always say don't play with your food, but if you cut things up into little pieces and just move it around your plate a whole bunch, you're good. You're golden.
depending on where you're at, there's probably like a street dog or something that would be very happy to help you with.
It's true. It really is so amazing though, because have gone into the most crazy places, the most poverty, my English accent coming through, poverty stricken places. And they are just so generous and kind,
Yeah.
and will offer you everything and anything. They'll give up their seat for you. They'll give up their dinner for you, sweets, whatever they have. They're they want. It's so amazing to see how generous people are.
Yeah, it's like the story in the Bible with like the widow giving her last 2
Yeah,
cents or whatever. It's like you see that in real life too, and kind of brings you back to the humbleness, or to remind you to be humble and thankful for everything we do have, because it's just like,
absolutely.
oh man, I don't know. It breaks your heart when you realize just how blessed we are sometimes. Life isn't fair, and unfortunately for us, we got the better end of that stick 99% of the time.
Yeah,
Life's not fair, and we got the good side of the not fair, unfortunately. But that also gives us the responsibility to,
yep,
okay, what are we doing with what we got? And
exactly.
that's not just resources, but skills and our time and our talents. And so that's kind of like what you're doing now and I do. It's not a typical, I guess, missionary work, but you'd be surprised how much stuff goes on behind the scenes, and what it takes to make something big happen. You got to work together, kind of like the
Absolutely.
body of Christ. We all have, not everybody wants to be a finger or an eyeball or a nose or whatever, or an ear, but they're all important. And if you didn't have one, you would know about it. It would be very
100%.
obvious.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, we always talk about if you can't go, send. And one of my dad's main things that he has been talking about recently is that the more that you are doing in your local church, that is how you're using your talents, your gifts to serve the local body. That's doing even more than anybody can even imagine. And then the church can be able to do what it's called to do. And so I completely agree that what we have here is so amazing, but we also have a duty to, do what we can. And I love that we get to go and we get to send, me and you and a lot of people listening. But yeah. Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, I thank you for just using your talents the way you do, and you're doing amazing stuff. And any like final advice or words you'd want to give maybe another missionary kid is watching this, just going, all right, I don't know what I'm gonna do in my life, or is this ever gonna end, or is this really worth it? Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I actually meet so many missionary kids, and they really do have that as a sad question.
I know.
I mean, you're gonna be okay. It's all gonna be okay. Don't worry. I think God knows the way that you need to be loved. You need to be cared for. That your life is gonna go. And one thing for me is that I never really saw ministry or missions or anything in the way that I see it now. And one of the scriptures that God gave me a few years ago is, I think it's like Isaiah 6:9 maybe, and it's like, behold, I'm doing a new thing. And the way that I am taking this on is just a way that I haven't seen before. And so you're allowed to do things in a new way that you haven't seen before. God inspired, God ordained ideas. And I'm excited for the new generation that's coming up to be able to do all these things, because it's going to be absolutely amazing. And yeah, I'm excited for you. You got this.
Good. Yeah. It's amazing. Even me, like, growing up and learning like video and things like that when I did working for the news. And now I look at what, like, even you could probably do as much on your phone now editing. And I'm like, oh, that would take me 20 years. And you're like, oh, 20 minutes, I'll have it knocked out. So it's just amazing what the next generation, a new, AI, that kind of, give or take, there's goods and bads of that. But what they're able to do, but they're already thinking, because they're growing up using these tools and seeing these applications, like different ideas that I wouldn't even be able to come up with. So it's really cool to keep doing that and keep passing it along and keep training up, just like other missionaries. You want to train up people underneath you.
Yes.
To take on and go and do bigger and better things. So maybe some of them are watching this podcast right now. So
I hope so.
Well, thanks for joining me and taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're doing a lot of amazing things and just kicking booty out there and taking names and in the missions world and secular world both. So just keep up the good work, and look forward to seeing you around out there in Tulsa or wherever.
Probably somewhere else in the world.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks again for joining us on the Mission Field Media Podcast. We so appreciate you taking the time to watch and listen to what God is doing all around the world through these missionaries and ministries. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and to find us on all the social media apps and follow us there as well. Tell all your friends about it. We couldn't do any of this without the listeners like yourself and our sponsors. Thank you so much, and we look forward to having you join us again on the Mission Field Media Podcast.